everyone, welcome to the Tru Crym Podcast, where we mainly focus on local San Diego cases. My name is Erina.
And I'm Ranete. In our first episode, I'm going to be talking about the Jodine Serrin case. I'm going to call her Jody for short because that's what her family and friends called her. So this was a cold case for a decade, but thanks to detectives who didn't give up and DNA technologies, the case was able to get solved. So Jodine Serrin, she was born in Glendale, California in 1967 to Lois and Arthur Serrin. Born in Glendale, but then they moved to Ohio, so she was raised most of her life in Ohio. She was one of 5 siblings.
Oh, okay. Was she the youngest, or do you know?
She was one of the middle child. I know she wasn't the oldest and she wasn't the youngest. She was the middle child. And then they ended up making their way down to Carlsbad, California. She was said to be really sweet, kind. She had a lot of hobbies. She liked to make floral arrangements. She even got certified. She got a certificate for it.
I didn't know you could get certificates for that, but that's good.
Yeah, and I think it's great because she's in Carlsbad and they have the flower field.
Oh, so, right. Yes, makes sense.
Like I said, she floral arrangements, did kayaking. She loved animals. She had a horse named Sam and a cat named Angel. She would volunteer for the San Diego Humane Society. Volunteered at her local church, the National Alliance of the Mentally Ill.
Wow.
And she would hang out with homebound elderly citizens.
Wow, she sounds amazing.
Super nice person, super active social life. So her parents bought her a condo nearby. That way they can have her nearby as she relied on them for some help. It was said that she had mental disabilities. Some reports said she had schizophrenia, but I couldn't confirm anything like from coming out of her parents' mouths, so I don't know if that's really true.
Nothing confirmed then.
No, not the schizophrenia, but she definitely had mental disabilities. Like I seen an interview on YouTube and they were saying, they mentioned that she had mental disabilities.
Oh, okay.
There was certain things she couldn't do, such as driving. She relied on her parents to take her to and from doctor's appointments.
Oh, okay.
They couldn't take her. She took public transportation and that sort of stuff.
Well, that's good that at least she can kayak and horseback ride, just not be able to drive.
Right. Although she had some mental handicaps, she was super high functioning. Like I said, because she did so much volunteering, she was super active. Yeah. Jody was super close to her parents. If they didn't see her every single day, they at least talked to her multiple times a day. The night that the crime happened, it was Valentine's Day, 2007. So she was 39 years old at that time. And her parents wanted to go on a romantic dinner and movies and that sort of stuff. And throughout that day, they tried calling her multiple times and she didn't answer the phone. And that wasn't like her because, like I said, they were super close to her and they talked all the time. Even though they were worried because she didn't answer, Arthur, the dad, was just kind of like, oh, Lois, I'm sure she's fine. She's probably busy. Maybe she's taking a nap. Let's still go have dinner and go to the movies. If she doesn't answer or call us back by that time, then we'll just stop by the house and go check on her. So they went to dinner, went to the movies, and after the movies, they called her again. She didn't answer. The mom, Lois, had this really, really bad feeling in her gut.
Always had that instinct.
Yes.
Instinct.
Yes. And so they drove to her house and they drove to her condo. And when they got there, they noticed the lights were on. So they start knocking on the door, calling out her name. Nobody answered. But they also noticed that there was a pair of men's shoes left at the front door. She was like you and I, like we both said, that we don't allow people to wear shoes when they enter our home.
So when they saw that, do you know if maybe she could have been dating? Like the parents thought maybe she had a man over?
It was said that she's had an ex-boyfriend in the past. I don't know if it was multiple, but I know she definitely had at least one ex-boyfriend in the past.
Oh, okay. All right.
But
it was Valentine's Day, so.
It was Valentine's Day, so maybe, they thought, well, she's, 39 years old. If she wants to have a man over, well, by all means, have a man over, But
why not answer the phone?
Yeah, so because that wasn't like her.
Yeah.
They were knocking, saw the men's shoes, nobody was answering. So they actually had a spare key to her condo. So Arthur tries opening the door, but it had from the inside, like those the chain latch doors.
Oh, the little chain, yeah.
Yeah, so he couldn't get in, but he was able to get at that point a partial view of the condo, and nothing looked ransacked or anything like that. Like I said, lights were on.
No break-in or anything?
No break-in. And so he's yelling her name again, no answer, so he just ends up kicking the door in.
Okay, good.
Gets in and he goes straight to her bedroom. The mom, Lois, was kind of in the living room area. She didn't enter the bedroom with Arthur, but when he opens that door, it's dark in there. He sees Jody laying on the bed, naked and a man on top of her, halfway naked, having sex, having an intimate moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So obviously he's super embarrassed.
Oh.
Like I would die if I walked.
Did they see him open the door?
Well, the man that was on top of her seen, but right away, like Arthur was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but you guys need to get dressed, and Jody, your mom, and I will be waiting for you in the living room."
Okay. Did she answer?
No, no response, no response, and he really couldn't see any reaction from her because it was mostly dark.
Yeah. Okay.
He had a better view of what the man looked like.
Okay.
So he goes back to the living room and tells his wife Lois what happened, and he's like mortified, just so like
I just walked in on my daughter.
Yeah, super awkward. Mm-hmm. So he's waiting and waiting. Nobody comes out. So he's like, you know what? I need to just go in there and check what the heck is going on. Yeah. He goes in there, and the man was no longer in the room, but Jodine was laying there lifeless. She was dead.
Oh my God.
There was blood all over her. There was blood on the bed. There was, you could tell that she had been strangled and she was beaten. Yeah. Oh. So right away when he sees that, I don't remember which parent it was, but one of the parents calls 911. Mm-hmm. Oh, it must have been Lois, the wife, because she calls 911 and then Arthur starts performing CPR on his daughter. But when he touched her, her body was cold.
Oh my gosh.
So
she'd been dead for a while.
She had been dead for a while.
He was fucking her? Her
yes.
Wow.
So like what they thought, that they walked into this man having like a consensual, intimate moment with his daughter, was actually a man, and he could have committing
caught
necrophilia.
Him, and he left. What did he do? Jump out the window? I mean,
well, so he sees that or whatever, and she's cold. Rigor mortis had actually set in.
Wow.
And I looked online. It says like rigor mortis sets in anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a person passed. So
oh my God, I thought it was like 2 to 3 maybe. I didn't know it took that long.
Yeah.
So she'd been dead for 8 to 12?
8 to 12 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So he ends up like oh, and I should mention too, so like I said, the guy was gone by the time he went back in there. Where Arthur and Lois were waiting for their daughter in the living room, you couldn't see from like the bedroom to the front door. So he and there was no signs of break-in, like no.
Yeah.
So he walked out of that front door without like Arthur and Lois noticing.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, and it must have been someone that she knew because she let him in, I'm guessing.
Right.
No break-in. She had his shoes out. Shoes. No, nothing like thrown onto the floor. No. Wow. So definitely someone she knew and she trusted.
Right.
And then he just left after.
And then I read somewhere like on one of the an obituary, and there was a comment that somebody had mentioned that she was too trusting. Yeah.
Wow. Someone said that. So it was her fault.
I know. Fucking assholes.
People say that all the time.
911 gets there and they assess the crime scene, and they notice that they did start to notice that there was some items that looked a little bit out of place. Like one item was a large oval shaped mirror, and it was broken off of its stand, and it was placed like in a certain area in her room where the perpetrator was able to watch himself have sex with her.
He purposely positioned the mirror to see.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a sicko.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So they noticed that, and then like I said, they noticed the men's shoes that were left at the front door. Nothing, there was not a robbery, nothing was stolen or anything like that.
But the dad did get a look at his face, you said? Like he
was able to see a little bit, but again, it was dark.
Okay.
So he gave a description, said it was a white male in his 30s, heavy set, dark blonde or light brown hair.
Okay.
He actually thought it was probably one of her ex-boyfriends, and that's why I say I knew she at least had one. He told the police, gave them a name.
I mean, that's always like the first suspect is the spouse or ex,
Yeah, the husband always did it or whatever, And
Sal.
so you're all looking at Sal. While the detectives assessed the crime scene, like I said, they did notice that oval-shaped mirror was out of place, but that nothing had been stolen. The shoes that were left at the door, which meant like she welcomed that person in. So they felt that it was probably somebody that, if at the very least they didn't know Jodine, they had kind of been like watching her and kind of like started to learn what her routine is.
Of course, yeah.
And like I had mentioned, Jodine had been dead for several hours. So the fact that the killer was like doing necrophilia shows that he didn't feel rushed. He didn't expect nobody to come. Like he was just didn't feel rushed at all. So
which is really scary.
Very scary.
About. Yeah. And the motive wasn't even burglary. Like
not even burglary. Nope. Like I said, based on that, the detectives thought that, you know, he must have known Jody. So they collected the unknown male's DNA. They got his sperm. They actually were able to get some of the DNA underneath her fingernails.
Oh, good.
So that shows like she fought back.
Yeah. Good.
So she fought back. They entered the unknown male's DNA into CODIS.
For those who don't know what CODIS is an acronym for Combined DNA Index System.
So the case ran dry for a little over a decade.
Wow.
And Crime Stoppers offered a $1,000 reward, and Jodine's parents matched that. So added another grand. But at that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was the governor of California. So he added 50.
Yeah. Oh, he did?
Yeah, he added 50 grand to, you know, to see like if any tips would come in that would lead to an arrest and a conviction.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, nobody came forward. You know how you hear cases and it's disappointing because the investigators really just didn't do what their job is to do, and they kind of just like let it go early on.
Yeah.
They were working hard. The parents always thanked the investigators.
That's good.
For being so fantastic and trying so hard for their daughter, Jody. So investigators linked up with a Virginia-based technology company called Parabon Nanolabs. They specialize in predicting like the physical appearance, what the killer would have looked like. They collect the DNA, put it in their system, and it'll tell them, you know,
eye
kind
color,
of like a photo. Right.
Hair
like
color.
if it's their race, you know. Also, that was the first time that was ever used in a case in San Diego.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. And what year is this again? Sorry.
2017.
2017.
Yeah, so
Wow.
2017.
Not that long ago at all.
The fact that they can use that actually, I think, is like so amazing.
Yeah,
like the way.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, cold cases coming back and being solved.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So in November of 2018, the Carlsbad Police Department and the District Attorney's Office put on a press conference and said that they found the killer, and his name was David Mabrito. So all thanks to the genetic genealogy and the male DNA that was found to the crime scene, they were able to locate David's relatives. And they actually found his son Dylan, who was like a teenager in high school at that time. It was his one and only son, and his ex-wife Marissa. I seen an interview on YouTube, and you can see his son Dylan talk about it, like about the day that the police came and that they're trying to solve a cold case, and they wanted to ask if they're willing to provide their DNA. And the police said that, you know, Dylan and Marissa, his ex-wife, were super like helpful and cooperative with the police. Actually, they ended up giving them a Citizens of Hope award for helping solve this cold case. It was like 1 in quintillion. There was like no way that it wasn't David.
Oh my gosh.
So they were devastated, shocked. I guess a year before the crime took place is when they divorced. And David was a transient. It was said that he became addicted to meth. And Dylan and Marissa lived near Jody, so he frequented that area.
So that's how he followed her around, probably, like you said, and knew her schedule.
So great for the family. They found the killer, great. But unfortunately, they were never able to get answers because David Mabrito had committed suicide 4 years after he murdered Jodine.
Oh, wow.
So he committed suicide. I think he was 42 years old. So they were never able to give answers. And the media had put out, you know, that they had solved this decade-long cold case and put the killer's photo out there and his name. Marissa they were getting bullied and harassed.
That's awful.
So she said she had to turn off.
As if it's their fault.
Right. Like, they're victims in this too.
Yeah, they had no idea.
No. So she had to turn off her phone and not go on social media for like 3 months, she said. And the interviews, like, I can't even imagine, like, the poor Dylan, like, he already had to go with living his life, knowing his dad committed suicide. Then you find out your dad is a rapist and a murderer and necrophilia. Yeah. That's like awful. So I feel so bad for him.
And he was a teenager, 16?
Yeah, he was in high school. I don't know how old
already
exactly.
Going through some terrible shit.
Yeah.
And then this all comes out.
Yeah. So you know how I mentioned a couple times about the men's pair of shoes that was left at the front door?
Right.
So when the police showed Marissa the pair of shoes, like this is before they confirmed it was David, but when they showed her the pair of shoes that was at the crime scene, right away in this YouTube video, you can look it up, but she said she knew straight away that those were David's shoes.
Oh my gosh.
She recognized those shoes.
That must have been an awful feeling.
Yes. She was saying that, they never understood why David committed suicide. It was something that they were blaming themselves for years, more like she was blaming herself. But she said, now I know why he committed suicide.
Guilt.
Because the guilt.
I wonder if he had ever committed anything like that with anyone else, like if he ever raped or attacked someone else. Like with how brutal it was and the necrophilia, like I feel like he had to have done this he had
before.
Practiced.
Yeah,
he must have been. And he was so confident. It
right.
seemed like he wasn't scared at all.
No, he wasn't scared
and his
at
parents
all.
The parents of the victim were right downstairs, and he just walked out the front door.
Just walked out. So actually, one of the neighbors, the night that the crime took place, they said that they had seen a man at around the same time that everything happened running down an embankment.
Oh, wow.
So like at a super fast speed, and he just looked like he was just running from something.
Yeah.
I went into newspaper archives and I came across the obituary of David Mabrito, and I'm going to read to you like what his ex-wife Marissa had said. She said, "Never in a million years would I ever think I would lose you so young. I'm so baffled, lost, shocked, and so completely empty since you left us. You gave me such an amazing gift, and I will always love you for that. Thank you for always taking care of us and for giving me the best of you. I miss you." She wrote this because he committed suicide in 2011. So she wrote this in 2014. I guess he was heavy on her mind. She went back to that obituary page and wrote that note. But what was so crazy to me is because it was like the day she wrote that note was on February 14th, like the same day that he committed that.
Valentine's Day. Oh
yes. So I thought that was crazy to me when I saw the date that she had wrote that. So I feel so awful for Arthur and Lois because I feel like they love their daughter so much. And
I mean, they took such good care of her. We're always checking up on her. They obviously had a good relationship. They talked every day, like you said.
Yeah. And they tried to do what was best for her, which was like giving her also some sense of freedom. And I feel like as a parent, whether you have a child that has disabilities or not, something that I think most parents, at least like I know I've struggled with, is like making sure you respect your children enough to give them some sort of like privacy, but also trying to make sure that they're safe. Mm-hmm. And I think like the plan that they had in place as far as buying her a home and making sure she was safe, so they had it nearby where they live.
They did almost everything possible to keep her safe.
They did everything, and yet this horrible piece of crap human being like took that away from them. Yeah. And can you just imagine the trauma that they feel? Because Arthur had actually, he had said in an interview, he says that he lives with regret because he feels like it's kind of like his fault because he let the killer get away. And it's not even like, it's not his fault.
That always breaks my heart when parents feel so guilty about it and there's really nothing they could have done. He didn't know.
Right.
But the fact that he could have stopped, I mean, the killer, she was already dead, but...
She was already dead. So for me, I feel like kind of that should give him peace because I'd be like, kind of like, well, I couldn't save her because she was already deceased at that time.
I feel so bad for them.
Feel so bad for them. I tried to look up on like where are they now, like in 2022, like what's going on with their lives. I did come across some of Jodi's like siblings' Facebooks, and I saw kind of what was going on in her siblings' life and stuff like that. But I couldn't find what's going on now with like Arthur and Lois. I know they're in their late 80s. They still live in Carlsbad.
Probably just trying to live their lives peacefully.
Right. Right. And like I'm not sure if I had mentioned, but every year after the murder took place, like when it was Valentine's Day, they said they took a day trip out of Carlsbad because it was just that day was so heavy for them.
Yeah, understandable.
So the last thing I just wanted to say is like how great it is to have these DNA advancements, because I'm hoping that now this can be one of the many cold cases that detectives are going to be able to solve. Usually
I hate cold cases because I need to know what the murder was. Like I need to know that it's been resolved. Just so the fact that Jodine, we discovered her killer 10 years later, that's amazing.
Yes. And when I first like came across this case, I actually thought at first it was a cold case still, and then it wasn't until I started, reading more into it that, it was solved. Good news to it, at least they found the killer, but it just really sucks that they weren't able to get the answers, like why he chose her. Like,
yeah, the motive of why her. I mean, he must have seen how kind she was and just so innocent looking that.
Yeah. So that was the Jodine Serrin case. Our plan for this podcast is I'm going to pick a case. I'll discuss it. But at the next episode, Erina is going to choose a case and talk about it.
Yes. Next time I will be taking over and talking about another local San Diego case.
So thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen to this.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.